Kelsee Briana J, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing and doing a look using the new Love products from Natasha Denona. And this is the season of love. We are almost to Valentine's Day, so this is right on time for her to get that launch right on in there. These products are very reminiscent of love, and this is dedicated to the lover in you. We are in the thick of cuffing season, so we have to have something to put on our faces to show that we are in the spirit of St. Valentine's. And so that's what Natasha Denona gave us. I have both of the new products from Natasha Denona, so let's get into it. Here's the packaging for both. They both have the same package, which is really beautiful and is not in your face overly pink, but it's pink stuff. So this is the packaging for the eyeshadow palette, which is called the Love palette. And this is the packaging for the Love Glow Cheek palette. So let's start off with the cheek palette. And this is a limited edition product. And I think the packaging is super cute because it has that little glitter that you can sit there and play with and shake it up like a, what's that thing called? It's like from the holidays. A snow globe. It's like a snow globe, but it's makeup. This retails for $55 and it has 4 different products in here. But let me read you guys the description for this. So it says that this is a cheek palette in 4 shades of picture perfect pink for blush and highlighting. And there's 0.42 ounces of products or 12 grams of products in this palette. When you open it up, you'll see that this palette does have a mirror. Mine is still covered by plastic, but you could take that off and obviously use the mirror. And then here are the products. So like I said, there's 4 different pans of products in this palette, and at the top there's a cream product. Only the top left is a cream product, but the top right is still covered by this plastic covering just to make sure that it doesn't dry out. It's good to have that because it protects it a little bit more. This is a cheek palette. You can use it on other areas on your face, but overall it's a cheek palette. Next we have the Love palette, and this again is one of the smaller palettes that Natasha Denona has come out with. This is the second time that she's done this because this palette retails for $65. So she has given us less product and she's charged us a lesser price point. Raise the roof. Like I said, this palette retails for $65 and it has 0.65 ounces of products or 19.25 grams of products. And the description for this palette says that it is a seductive palette that can be used for playfully bold creations or effortlessly wearable everyday looks. Again, we have that mirror popping, and here is the eyeshadow palette. So this palette has a mix of colors. We have lighter colors, we have deeper colors, we have shimmers, we have mattes, and we have cream to powder eyeshadow formulas. So there's a little bit of everything mixed into this palette. It's pink, it's giving us peach, it's giving us purple, and it's giving us everything for Valentine's Day or a romantic season. But obviously you can use this palette beyond Valentine's Day. But since it's called the Love palette, it's supposed to put you in the mindset of Valentine's Day, the mindset of that. And of course, I swatched them all for you all row by row, and I swatched the cheek palette. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the swatches of these products, and then I'll show you guys how to create this look. And then as per usual, make sure you stay tuned until the end, and I will give you all my final thoughts on both of these products, as well as share some comparisons. So I hope that you all enjoy, and I'll talk to you all shortly.
Perfect.
So I'm first going to take this corally color, and this one is in the shade Intense, and a Sonia G Crease 2 brush. So I am going to take this color in my crease, and I have a little bit of concealer on my eyelids, and I'm going to use that as my base, pop it back and forth, and this is going to be my transition shade. This color is a lot more intense than it looks in the pan, which is a good thing because it's going to give us that color saturation so you don't have to dip back and forth. But if you want this color to show up a little bit lighter, then just use a lighter hand and slightly dip into it. But I fully saturated the brush and it gave me this color payoff, so I like that. Now I'm moving on to the next color, and I'm going to use the same brush and pick up the color Soul. So I'm going to move down and apply this color directly in the crease. And this is going to intensify our crease, make it a little bit more defined. And this is already turning out really pretty. I love this. So back and forth. Same brush, and I'm going to take the color Heartbeat. Now I'm going to move on to the outer portion of the lid and pack this color on there. So I want this color to intensify the outer corner and add more depth. And then I'm bringing it up to connect it to the crease. And I'm going to take this a little bit further over towards the middle of the lid. And then just continue to pack it on. And you want this to be completely opaque. So now I'm going to take a more tapered blending brush. This is a Chikuhodo GSN 10 brush. And I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the color Commitment. I'm going to take that little bit and pop that right on the outer corner's crease. So just right here, I'm concentrating that color. That'll bring back a little bit more definition too, just in case this color just all starts to blend into the sameness. That adds a little bit more extraness. Now, once you have that blended out, now let's take a flat shader brush. This is a Rephr 02 brush, and I'm picking up the shade Giving. With this color, I am going to pack this on the lid. So I'm just taking my time so I don't get glitter everywhere, because this does have glitter chunks in there. So I'm picking up just a little bit, and then I'm using packing motions to blend it out on the lid. And you all see I have this area open, and I'm just following that guideline. And you all already saw where I applied this color on the lid as well. I kind of blended it over. I'm just making sure that this color is connecting to that. And then I'm just going to take my time and build this color up so it can be as opaque as possible. Even with being careful, I did get just a little bit of fallout, but I'm just going to dust it away. But just try to go in as slowly as possible with this color, because you are going to get a little bit of fallout if you put too much on your brush. That looks really pretty. Same brush, and I'm picking up Pure Love. So right in between this outer corner color and the lid shade, I'm just going to pop this color right in the center. Love it. Let me add liner and lashes, and I'll be right back, and we can do the lower lash line together. So I popped on some lashes. These are Lily lashes in the style Miami. So on the inner corner, I'm going to take a bit of the color Blind with a Royal and Langnickel BOM 435 brush. And I'm popping a little of this on the top and the bottom. Same brush, and I'm taking Dream. So the texture of this one is different than the others. So let's see how it applies on the actual eye. It's very sheer. It's taking a while to build it up. And lastly, I'm going in with Trust. And carefully taking this color up and blending it to the top. So we're done with our eyes. Now let's move on to the cheek palette, and let's see what that does. So I don't have anything on my cheeks besides foundation, so I'm just going to work on top of that. So the first thing that I want to try is the Glow Cream Base, and this is a buffing foundation brush by Sonia Kashuk. So I'm just going to dip right in there. Let's stipple her on. Going on very sheer-like. I need to add more. I went in very light-handedly, but this is the type of formula that you can obviously go in with, and it's still sheer enough to where you can build it up. So I like that. And I like the fact that it's not super bold, so it's really pretty. It's giving me a nice flushed look, and it didn't lift or separate my foundation. So I think that looks really pretty, and I'm just adding just a little bit more because I'm extra like that. That looks good. So I'm going in with the Sonia G Mini Cheek Brush, and I'm going to take the Super Glow, and let's go on top of that and see what that does. It's really adhering to that cream and making it way more intense, but it looks really pretty, very glowy, but it still is soft, but it is a lot more dramatic than it was at first. But this is really pretty. It's giving me that really nice radiant effect. This looks like it has tiny flecks of glitter in it, but when you blend it out, you can't see that. You just see the sheen. So I like that color. Other side, I'm going to take the same brush that I just wiped off and try out the Diamond Powder. I'm just going to go with that right here on the balls of my cheeks. This one is really pretty, but this one has larger flecks of glitter in it. So you definitely can see the glitter, and this one is not as opaque as it looks in the pan. In the pan, it looks like a very concentrated pink color with gold glitter, but on the cheeks, it's a very sheer wash of glitter, and you can barely see that pink tint. And lastly, I have to try out this Glow Impacts powder. It's actually a lot more subtle than I thought it was going to be. It's giving me a really nice, soft wash of champagne gold, almost teetering on tan. So on my complexion, it just looks like it's my skin glistening and not necessarily like it's a highlight. But it's very finely milled. This one does not have any glitter in it, so it's just giving me a nice glow. So all of that looks really pretty. So I hope that you all enjoyed the creation of this look. Now let's get into my final thoughts about these products. And let's start off with the cheek palette first. I think the packaging for the cheek palette is really cute. I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea because it does look pretty juvenile because it has the glitter in here. You can shake it up and it's, you know, really cutesy, but I like it because it really fits the theme of love and Valentine's and things that are really cheesy and corny, but I like it. But aside from that, I also like that this one is very compact, and when you're traveling and you want to have something like this, then you don't have to take a full-sized one, and you can do about 2 different cheek looks with this. So if you apply the cream color base and you apply the rest of the colors on top, it intensifies them, or you can just go in with the cream color base by itself and you can have a really nice subtle flush of color, as you all saw me do in the demonstration. So I really like the way that these colors performed. I think they look really beautiful on my complexion, and I can see people who have lighter complexions onto people who have deeper complexions be able to use and enjoy this palette. So I really like this one. It's formulated very well. However, it does have glitter very prominently focused in this palette. So if you're a person who steers clear from glitter on your cheek area, I would not recommend you to get this palette because pretty much 2 out of the 4 products in here are glitterified, and so that's half of the palette that you wouldn't be able to use. But if you're a person who does not have any qualms with using glitter on your cheeks, if you don't have a lot of texture here, if you like something that's a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more bold and glittery, then I think it's pretty because it is not an obnoxious amount of glitter. When you blend it out, it looks very beautiful and subtle, but it's still glitter. So just be aware of that. And as far as the colors in here, I love the way that they work together. I think that they look really beautiful and they give that really nice peachy, goldeny, pinky type look. It reminds me a little bit of NARS's Orgasm Blush and how it is corally peachy pink, but it also has that gold shift to it. And I feel like all of the colors in here really are on theme with that. But I will say that if you have Natasha Denona's other palette, the Diamond and Blush palette, I already have it, but I did not pack it, so I can't show you guys. The one in the color Daria, I feel like this one is very similar to that. I don't think that you need to have both, but if you don't already have that one, I think this one is different, and I think it's different enough from her Bloom palette, which is another palette that has a similar like color story in that it's peachy and it's golden, but the tones, especially on my complexion, are just a lot different. So here's the Bloom palette in comparison to the Love Glow palette, and as you all can see, these palettes are not similar. They have similarities. They might be in the same color family, but overall, they're not going to look the same on the cheeks. Next up, let's talk about this eyeshadow palette, the Love palette. So first, let me start off by saying that I love the way that my eyes look. They look very festive. They look very romantic. And I love the way that everything blended together. But yet I can still see the differences in color. But I feel like the colors in this palette are just super cohesive. And even though they're in the same family, they're different enough to where you can do different types of looks with this palette. And it won't just look like you're doing one continuous look after another. It'll look different. So I like that about this palette. The color story is just done right. For me, I've said it so many times on my channel, I'm not really into a lot of pinky, peachy, girly stuff. But sometimes I will get into it, especially if there's purples in there, because it's more my personal makeup style. So I really like this color story. It's cohesive. It's on trend right now with all of the pinky, peachy, neutrally type palettes. But for me, the difference in this one from the other ones is that it's a little bit more vampy and it's a little bit more romantic, and they threw in purple. So you know your girl likes that. I like purple. So this one is really beautiful. Off top, I have two other palettes that the color story sort of reminded me of this palette, and even with these palettes, I don't think that it is totally anything that's super similar. So I don't really have a dupe for this palette in my collection. Of course, if I look at it color by color, I'm sure that I can find things that are similar, but as far as having something that is placed and configured like this palette is, I don't have anything like that in my collection. So the first palette that popped into my head that I thought was sort of similar to this palette was the Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina palette collaboration. But looking at it now, I don't really think that there's a whole lot of similarities. There are certain elements that do remind me of one another, but the Jackie Aina palette is a little bit more warm and it has the orangey tones in here, but it does have that mauve-y, deep pink color and the purples, just like the Natasha Denona palette does. But I wouldn't say that I could create the same look that I could with the Natasha Denona palette with the Jackie Aina palette, even though there are similarities here. So I think that these palettes do differ enough to where if you already have this palette, that you could get this palette and you can still create unique looks that don't look exactly like something right out of this palette that you already have. And next I have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk palette, which the Pillow Talk palette is way more neutral than Natasha's palette is. Natasha's palette is basically color, and this one is giving us everyday neutral, but it has that pinky element to it. So definitely these are not the same, but they are in the same realm of each other. Looking past the color story though, the formulation of this eyeshadow palette to me is not on par with Natasha Denona's other best eyeshadow palettes that she's come out with. So this one is not a bad palette. It performs very beautifully. Like I said, I love the way that my eye look turned out, but I did have a lot of fallout with a lot of the shimmer shades, and the matte eyeshadows, they blended out, but they are a bit of a drier formula. And then this color down here is that cream to powder type formula, and none of the other eyeshadows in this palette are formulated like that. So I don't understand why she included just the one, so it's kind of odd. So the formulation of these eyeshadows is not consistent throughout this palette. Some of the mattes in here are a lot smoother than others, and some of the shimmers in here are a lot smoother than others. But overall, looking across Natasha Denona's offerings of her palettes, I'm not going to say that this is her best formulation that she's come out with. And we all know that Natasha Denona is prone to changing her formula. I would be more surprised if Natasha Denona kept the same formula palette to palette than I would be with her switching it. So I already knew she would. The eyeshadows in this palette are formulated in a completely different way than I've tried from her before. So that's not to say that these are bad. To me, it's just they're not on par with her Metropolis palette formula. They're not on par with the Biba palette formula. And the Sunset palette, which is the same configuration, is not on par with that formula either. So with that being said, you are going to have to put in a little bit more elbow work with this. You are going to have to go in with the stickier base, and just know that you are going to get a little bit of fallout with this palette. But I do like the colors in here, and this palette does perform. So all in all, do I feel like you absolutely positively have to have this palette? No, I don't. I feel like there are other palettes in Natasha Denona's line that I would start with if you've not explored her brand before. However, if you are like me and you are a Natasha Denona collector, do I think that it's a good palette and am I happy to have it? Yes. I can see myself using it past Valentine's Day, which obviously you don't want to limit yourself to just using makeup just because it's on theme for that holiday. And I think that I can create some beautiful looks with this. But if I were starting out and I'm looking to purchase Natasha Denona for the first time, this is not the first starting point that I would go for. It's a nice palette, but it is not a must-have palette. Years and years from now, when we're talking about some of our favorite makeup that we love and use and has stood the test of time, I don't think this palette is going to be in that conversation because it is a trendy palette. It does its job. It's relatively inexpensive for the brand, and it's just gonna work for now. But in the future, I can see Natasha Denona improving, and this palette is just gonna be left in the dust. So it's good to have it if you want to participate in the trend right now of the peachy, pinky, neutrally type palettes. But that is just my opinion. But let me know what you all think about it down in the comment section. If you all do go to Sephora and swatch this palette, just know that this palette does perform better than its swatches. So don't get discouraged from buying it if you swatch it and you're like, ooh child, no. You do have to use this palette because it does work better than it appears to when you swatch it. So I will check you all in my very next video, which will be super soon. Smooches. Bye.